big bull market coming for stocks, gold, and silver. But will it happen to crypto? Do you think it will happen? Because Trump and Kevin Hassett, the new Federal Reserve chairman, want this for stocks, right? And gold and silver is going to take off. But do you think this will happen to crypto as well? What will be the rate cuts? I'm talking about all of 2026. Do you think we'll get a lot of rate cuts? Do you think Trump and the new Federal Reserve chairman that he's picking will pump the markets? So have a look at this. This is one cut in 2026. This is 2 rate cuts in 2026. So far, the market is pricing in most likely we just get 2 cuts. Probability of 3 cuts here or even 4 cuts is not very high, right? And they have 8 meetings. 8 meetings in 2026. So far, the market is pricing in just about 2 cuts. Why is Pablo still bullish? Because Trump is about the most unorthodox president in US history, and he's going to control the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is meant to be an independent organization that is not controlled by the president, United States president. That's why president is screaming to fire Jerome Powell right now, and he can't fire Jerome Powell. He's huffing and puffing. Jerome Powell doesn't go till May next year. And then in which case the new guy gets in. That's Kevin Hassett. And this is what Trump had to say about how he's going to choose his new Fed president. He said, support for interest rate cuts will be a key litmus test. He says it'll basically be, he wants immediately. And the guy he picked is most likely going to be Kevin Hassett. And let's have a look at what this Kevin Hassett guy had to say. There's room for the Fed to cut more than 25 points, right? They can cut maybe 50, 60, right? He's basically just auditioning for the job. So he keeps on telling people, oh yeah, we can cut 25 points, we can cut 50, we can cut 100 points. This is something that Trump wants to hear. In the interview he gave just an hour ago, he says, I'll go wherever Trump tells me, Kevin Hassett. And he says, plenty of room for Fed to cut rates. In yesterday's interview, he said this, check this out. And that's why I'm bullish on the markets. But will this work out for crypto? We know stocks and gold and silver will probably be okay, but will Bitcoin and crypto recover? He says, AI allows for running the economy a little bit hotter. Hotter means inflation goes up a little, right? Like maybe 3.5% inflation. And he says AI will allow for that. Because what he means is AI will make people lose jobs. So eventually you want to make the economy go hotter so it offsets the job losses. And he also means AI will increase a lot of productivity. So therefore there's going to be savings efficiency. Therefore you can have a little bit more inflation. Kevin Hassett says, plenty of room for 10-year yield to go down. Wow, if you understood what he means by that, right? And here is the US 10-year Treasury yield. Right? It's headed up. And it's bad news for the US economy, bad news for stock market, because when interest rate 10-year yields go up, it just crashes the valuations of NASDAQ stocks, right? And if NASDAQ goes down, yeah, you can be guaranteed Bitcoin goes down, right? I mean, NASDAQ is at near all-time highs right now. Bitcoin's crashed. So imagine what happens if NASDAQ actually goes into a bear market. But by bringing the 10-year yield down will make NASDAQ go up. Now, here's the other thing. He's trying to bring down the US 10-year yield. How do you bring that down? The only way the Federal Reserve can do it, that Kevin has said can do this as per his words, plenty of room for 10-year yield to go down, is if he was to buy the 10-year yield bond, as the Fed chairman. If you buy those bonds, bond prices go up, yields come down. And that's very good for crypto, Bitcoin, stock market. But if you're the Fed and if you're buying bonds, what do you call that? That's called QE, quantitative easing. That's called the printer, right? As we saw in 2021. So it's just a crazy degen situation. I call him Kevin Degen Hassett, Kevin Moonboy Hassett. He said a lot of crazy things, like this one, for example. By the way, today we're going to spend the second half of the video talking about this crazy situation. The train is leaving the station. Boom! The train's leaving the station right now. Okay, but before we get to all that, first let's answer the question of which crypto exchange does Pablo Jimenez use? Pablo uses this exchange that's non-KYC. That means you don't need to show any ID. That means even the exchange can't see who you are, right? So basically, exchange can't see who you are. The IRS can't see you. The tax office can't see you. FBI, CIA, nobody can see you. Total privacy, right? And so I made this exclusive link with them only in the Pablo He-Man campaign. And basically, all sorts of great bonuses, like deposit $100, get $20 if you just trade a little. Deposit $500, get $80 by doing some light trading, right? All the way down to deposit $2,000 and get $200 by doing some trading, right? All sorts of wonderful prizes. But this is limited time only. This finishes on December 23rd. So this is basically just before Christmas Eve. Limited time only. Jump on it, folks. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, the link is in the description below. But if you're watching on any other platform, such as this one, then that's okay, right? We just go straight to my profile page and then click on the my stand link or link tree. We click on that and it should be the first deal that pops up because it's a great deal. Okay, let's get back to the markets, folks, because this deal is only available on the Pablo He-Man link. It's only on the Pablo He-Man link. There we go. Okay, so what I was saying about the situation with the Kevin Hassett, the Moon Boy. Look what he's saying. He says on Trump's Federal Reserve Chairman choices, right? I mean, there are other guys he can choose. He says, if I have to be that choice, I'll be pleased to help him. That's, he's saying on the Fed, Trump has a lot of good choices. But if I have to be that choice, I'll be pleased to help him. So essentially, that's almost treason. Because as the Federal Reserve Chairman, you swear an oath to do two things. You have a dual mandate. We all know what that is. One is to keep inflation low, and two is to basically promote economic growth of the United States economy, right? Jobs and employment. So your allegiance is to the American people, not to the president. And people get confused about this. That's why Jerome Powell doesn't cut rates when Trump screams at him. Now, here's the thing. Let me give you another example of what this is like. It's kind of like if you join the military in the United States, or if you one day become a 5-star general, you become chief of defense force, you swear an oath. Hand on the Bible, you swear an oath. You do not swear that oath to the U.S. president. You swear the oath to uphold the Constitution. Do you understand what I'm saying? If the U.S. president does something unlawful, even though he's the commander-in-chief of the military, you have to stand your ground and not follow those orders. We've seen this in plenty of movies, right? You don't listen to the president if he's wrong. You're supposed to carry out independent judgment. That's in the military, let alone the Federal Reserve, which has nothing to do with orders from the U.S. president. And he's saying, if I have that choice, I'll be pleased to help him. So I've said for a long time now that this Kevin Hassett, whom Trump is looking very likely to pick for the Fed, is going to be a stooge and he's going to be a yes man. And you're wondering, but he doesn't come into May, right? And that means they have a meeting in January, meeting in March, meeting in April. So there's at least 3 more Fed meetings, right? But imagine this. When this guy's confirmed, like president-elect, like federal chairman-elect to be the next Federal Reserve Chairman, he's going to be speaking like this in the media all the time. And he's going to be disagreeing with Jerome Powell, saying, I think what he's doing is wrong. It's egregious. It's bad for the American economy, and he's going to have to pay for it one day. He's going to go down in history. He's going to have to take responsibility for that. And he's already seen stuff like this. So you have, as I've been saying, you have the new chairman who's going to put a lot of pressure on the old chairman. They're going to be in the media speaking at the same time. He's putting pressure on him right now. He says, Jerome Powell probably agrees it's prudent to cut rates right now, right? So it looks like Powell has done a good job herding the cats. He means the other 9 or 10 voters on the Federal Reserve Board. Herding the cats means kind of like the sheepdog who on a farm, who basically tell the cats or the animals where to go. If some of them are voting for rates to be on hold, Jerome Powell is pushing them in this direction. So like he says, we should continue to get the rate down some. It's just gonna be an ugly situation. And then the market, remember the market always prices ahead of time. The market doesn't wait till May for these guys to get in. The market's gonna start pricing in January, February, maybe even as early as right now, December, to say that, okay, hey, look, we have this new moon boy, this new degen as the new Federal Reserve president. And therefore, I think market's going to be very bullish after May. But that means you don't buy by the time he comes in. Everybody knows that. You meant to buy in the weeks or even month leading up to them. So Bitcoin at 93K, has it gotten out of jail yet? Let's see. I had the rising channel drawn here, and unfortunately, in my opinion, it's still stuck inside the rising the bear flag. So I'm not as bearish as some folks who say that it'll go down to this 73K support and wick down and touch 72K, low 70s. Some people even say 60s. I don't think that's a scenario. I've said it since the day we hit here, which was 21st of November. I said, I think we come back for a second test of this 80K. We'll probably end up at 78, 79, and then we bounce. Now, until it beats this rising trend line here, this red one, I still think we're inside a bear flag, right? Looking for a breakdown. But in my case, I'm looking for a double top, double bottom, slightly lower, and up we go. Because the bullish factors I've been telling you guys. And this red trend line, I've shown it many times. It's basically what has helped Bitcoin since 15K bottom, right? Kept Bitcoin going all this time. We've broken down. Now we really need to get above that line. So that line right now sits at around 97K. We need to get at least above that before we start considering. So I think we'll get a breakdown, but it'll be a fake breakdown for a double bottom, and then up we go. So that's the situation with Bitcoin right now. But what about the silver market? Now, as you know, Pablo has been talking about this for a long time. We're inside a precious metals bull market. First was gold, and then silver and platinum and palladium. They're all running, and now even copper and aluminium. What is the story with gold and silver is basically there's a short squeeze. What's causing the short squeeze is that investors and especially large institutions from India and China and a lot of other countries as well, like Poland, for example, that's an obvious notable one, and the Middle East are going to the large exchanges. The one in London is called London Bullion Metals Association, LBMA, and then Market Association, and then the COMEX Futures Exchange in the United States, New York, right? They're going to these exchanges and they're saying, we're going to buy silver like they have always done. But previously, when they buy silver in the futures market, they don't take delivery. That means if I make a profit, you just cash settle me, give me the cash. I'm not asking for a bar of silver and saying, okay, I'll take that silver home. Don't give me the cash. I'll take the physical item. Right now, a lot of companies, a lot of institutions, and private individuals from India and China are doing that, asking for the bar, right, itself. Why are they doing that? Because they think United States dollar is no longer reliable. So we're going to have a big monetary reset. They're getting ready for that. Folks in the crypto world are getting ready for that by buying Bitcoin. They're getting ready for that by buying gold and silver. What makes so and these exchanges, of course, they don't have that much gold and silver. It's they basically work like a bank. They basically work like on what they call fractional reserve system. Like you know how when you go to a bank, if you say put $1 million into the bank as a deposit, and you go to the bank and you say, give me back my $1 million, the bank says, sure, we're worth many billions, even $1 trillion. Here's your 1 mil. No problem. But if everybody did that, the bank would go bankrupt because the bank doesn't have all your money just sitting there. it lends those money out, right? And even if the bank is in trouble, then it just asks for help, liquidity from the Fed, and the Fed gives the bank the money. No problem. We've spoken about this many times, as that's the situation we're seeing in the standing repos every night. Remember this chart? Standing repos. That's the situation we're looking at every day. Like when banks run out of money, right? That they ask the Fed for some liquidity so they can pay your deposits back. But that's not the situation that happens in the gold and silver market, because in the gold and silver market, when they do this, there's no central bank for them to turn to, right? They don't have all the gold or all the silver they claim to have, and they can't just turn around and go to some central bank who can magically print out gold and silver bars like the way they do at the Fed. If you need US dollars, they can just literally print them and just say, here, right, we'll supply the market with liquidity. They can't do that with gold and silver. So if LBMA or COMEX become stuck, then they're completely stuck and they are fucked, like you might say. So, of course, some large Wall Street banks work in cahoots with the US government to slam down silver prices and gold prices, because gold and silver were literally money. Now, money in the United States, legally speaking, are these fiat dollars, printed pieces of paper, right? The green dollar, and people don't trust them. So the silver eagle, right? The gold eagle, that used to be money. The which is a coin with the eagle on it. The British pound used to be the money in Britain, because the British pound, well, they still call it a pound, but now it's a piece of paper. But before, it was essentially 1 pound of silver. That's like 450 grams of silver. That was 1 pound, right? That was really valuable. Now try using 1 British pound to buy 1 pound of silver. You cannot do it. Okay. So the governments, British and American, work together in cahoots with the big banks to suppress the price of gold and silver. How do we know this? Do you have evidence? Are you calling market manipulation, or is that just a conspiracy theory? Well, here's the evidence. See, if we break up a trading day during New York hours, right? New York hours, right? Versus New York overnight. So, for example, this is New York hours, right? Between 8 a.m. New York, 8:20 to 1:30 p.m. That's their trading day. That's the New York open and the New York close of the New York trading day, right? If we tallied up the price movement since 1970 of the movement in price of silver, silver would have gone from $2 to 20 cents, would have gone down 90% over the last 50 or so years. But that's like if we only pretend that the rest of the world doesn't exist. If we were to then pretend that the New York doesn't exist, and if we only tally the price outside of that time zone, which means the time zone of China, India, Middle East, and Europe, then we will see price of silver go from $2 to, wow, like $396, $400. And that's only at the start. And this table was made at the start of 2020. No, it's made a few days ago. So that's a huge difference. In other words, US is slamming the price. New York is slamming the price of silver, right? Every time it gets a chance. Whilst the rest of the world is pushing up the price of silver. In the West, which is London and New York, they're selling silver. In the East, which is China and India, they're buying silver. So it's like a tug of war, right? One side is trying to pull the price of silver up. The other side is trying to pull the price of silver down. If it was up to the Eastern market, silver would be worth $400 right now. $400. And yet silver right now is only still just popped above 60. It was spent a long time in the 50s for like 2 months. If it was up to New York, price of silver will be 2 cents, 0.2 cents right now. So it's a crazy world we live in right now. And so far, it looks like China and India are winning, because China and India actually buy physical silver. They actually do physical trading, and they produce solar panels that actually require physical silver. They actually need the physical product. Okay, thank you for your time, guys. Catch you next episode.